Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 452 of the Drunk District Podcast. Our most as always, I'm Tyler, and joining me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables. I said that really fast. What's up, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tyler. I'm doing good. I'm off of work. I've played some games this week. But most of all, I've been trying to get my sweet rest because, holy shit, I feel like I'm getting the crust of being like an old man, if you know what I mean.
I understand completely.
But long story short,
I feel it all the time.
I have been playing some new games and stuff like that. So it's like, it's good. It's good right now. But anyway, how have you been doing?
Doing all right, fighting a little bit under the weather here, drinking under the weather a little bit. Stomach's been a little messed up today. Spent a good chunk of the day, the afternoon, in the bathroom, if you know what I mean. Not fun.
No.
Not fun. No idea what I ate. No idea. Like, had cereal, had some coffee this morning, and then I ate some toast a couple hours ago. And then I drank a lot of Pepto-Bismol as well. So I'm fighting through it, and to help it out. On top of that, I'm drinking this delicious Oktoberfest. Get that in frame here.
Oh,
there we go. For those of us in Iowa, this is a local Iowa brewing company, Back Pocket Brewing. They made a Oktoberfest for the Iowa Hawkeyes, the number 5 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes.
There you go.
So yeah, they won today, 3-0 now. Woohoo! Enjoy it while it lasts, people. We are not the 5th best team in the country. Our defense is, but our offense is not. So enjoy it while it lasts. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. It's we got one more week to go, work for me, and then I am off next week.
There you go.
Which is awesome. Yeah, so I'm excited. This is only the 3rd time I've ever taken a full week off of work before in my entire adult life. So that's pretty awesome, and it's the first time I've done it in over E3 2018 was the last time I did it, so over 3 years ago now. So I've had a proper break from working, which is awesome. Look forward to that. I don't really have anything to do. I don't get to with my work, it's tenured based. You have to take your vacation in 1 week stretch. You get a week, and then you get 3 floater days. So I'm taking the Monday and Tuesday after extra life off. And then I have 1 floating day left. I gotta use before next June, and then this was that week, the last week of September was available, or there was 2 weeks I can pick from in February. So I'm well, that sounds miserable. Now that I know Horizon and everything's coming out in February now, I kind of wish I would just fucking picked February, but I am very much looking forward to having next week off. That'd be pretty awesome. Yeah, just gotta keep grinding through and then do all that fun jazz. But I don't know. Yeah, it's all right. But all right, wow, we flew right through that intro. But anyways, people, this is a video game podcast where we talk about video games mostly, and sometimes I go on weird tangents, which Gables knows all about that. Which I appreciate the fact he just lets me go sometimes. He's just I'm just gonna take a step off to the side here. And, I can. Sometimes I wonder if Gables just has a Skype loop where he just kind of moves suddenly, and I don't even notice he's been gone for 20 minutes. It's just a loop he created, and nobody has any fucking clue. One of these days I'm gonna catch him, and it's gonna be
a loop or something like that. It's it's just I'm just intently just doing this, or somebody's listening to you for a good solid 20 minutes, and all of a sudden it's you just flash back, and all of a sudden the thing just falls into place. You just see him just getting out of the bathroom. It's you weren't listening to the damn thing I said. Wait.
It's wait, yeah, or it's you have you put a carefully placed TV monitor really close to the camera, so I can't tell, and you knock it over, or you fine, you do it, but then I look over and it's you're wearing. There's a gold hoodie, but then I look over in the loop. You're wearing a fucking Golden State Warriors t-shirt. I'm did he fucking change his shirt mid podcast? And I missed
it. Oh my god! It's just gonna be mid podcast or something like that. It's what the hell? Is he changing? No.
Yeah, wait, why is? How does he keep changing? How does he have time to do these wardrobe fucking changes? What is he fucking on? SNL or something? Jesus Christ! His records. I don't even see it. It's that scene from Speed when the guy that puts the bomb on the bus finds out that he's watching a loop on camera.
Jesus Christ.
Spoilers for a 25-year-old movie. I don't know why I said that because it's like literally like the halfway point of that movie. There's like a whole 45 minutes after that. But anyways, this is a video game podcast. We're talking about video games. I don't know what the fuck we're doing anymore.
Dude,
Oh, go ahead.
it's funny you say speed because for God's sake, my dad was watching that movie on the TV the other day, and I just thought to myself, I was like, okay, how many speed movies were there? Okay, there's like Speed One, Speed Two, and it's like, and I don't know why I thought this is like, oh, well, here's the next speed movie. It's like Speed Three. It's like it's incredibly fast.
Yes, it's just if there's not like a Fast and Furious tie-in, I don't want it. I don't
Speed
want it.
Three even faster than that.
Yeah, it's like fucking Keanu Reeves shows up. I live my life a tenth of a mile at a time. It's like, oh fuck, that's big. That's big. That's 0.15% more than Dominic Toretto. It's a deep cut for you there. I had to do math real fast, man, which normally isn't that difficult, but it's 9 o'clock at night, and I'm a beer and a half in, so that's where we're at. Uh, Anyways, let's get some fun little topics here, Gables. It's not a crazy week,
No.
not a crazy week, you know. It's been kind of, we had the big PlayStation blowout last week. Um, I think a lot of us were like kind of crossing our fingers and our toes and our penises that we get a Nintendo Direct. That didn't happen. Feel like it's any time now. There's more and more things happening, but like whenever we get like Direct crazy, like every tiny like rumor gets blown up 10 times. It's like going to E3 where like this tiny thing that like nobody would have covered, you know, any other time of the year. But if something possibly happen like the tiniest leak or rumor happens in May, we all lose our goddamn collective minds.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll have to. Maybe that's kind of where we're at now. There's like the 64 controller, fucking people like trying to like with fucking strings trying to like figure out what all the shit is. So that's where we're at right now with that. But speaking of Nintendo, Gables, the UK got a price drop of 20 euro. It goes from 300 euro to 280 euro. It's a permanent price drop. It's going into effect immediately as of like I believe Monday or Tuesday. And it was funny. We had it. You had it in your. You put it in
The
our show
rumors.
notes last week, but we just didn't get to it in the rumor section. Because but I was kind of reading it and I was just like, that's not gonna happen. They're not gonna do that. And they did it. It's only for Europe and the UK and everything. But yeah, like I mean, they talked about it's kind of more of a price adjustment because obviously like they've had a lot of issues over there. I believe I get really confused about how the UK and Europe and what's the United Kingdom and what's not, what's all that shit, where shit is. I don't even like half the countries I've even heard of. Some countries I just assume are part of it, but they're not. They're actually like 2,000 miles away. Um, but anyways, yeah, I did that. They said that they immediately came out and said that's not happening in America or anywhere else. So don't expect it. But it sounds like it's more of like an inflation thing where the price, 300 euros meant 5 years ago is drastically different now, which obviously, that's the case with a lot of things. But over there, it's definitely the case. Um, but with Brexit and everything, like everything's just it's nuts over there. I don't know. I mean, I think it goes down to 280, but also kind of makes sense too, where you look at the fact that the OLED edition's coming out there, coming everywhere next
Yep.
month. Actually, a couple weeks. Holy
Yeah,
shit!
it is.
But it's crazy. We are almost to October. It's nuts. Like I feel like it was just like August, like we were just starting August, and now
Getting
it's
last
fucking we
whole
are
week of
coming.
September next week.
Yeah, right. Uh, it's gonna be fucking December before we fucking know it. I look forward to it. But anyways, so we have that. That's coming out. That's gonna be 310 euro there. Um, so I mean, it was kind of be ridiculous to have a $300 also on top of it. The price adjustment and on top of that, it's like, well, should I buy this $300 OG Switch or buy this $310 OLED? Well, at that point, it's stupid not to. But also like where like they're talking about like basically they said if you don't get that OLED in that first wave, maybe the second wave, the odds of you getting one because of the chip
It's
shortage
going
and
to be
everything like that
incredibly
is gonna be
unlikely.
yes. Like I mean, we keep talking about it all the time about the chip shortage like affecting the PS5 especially, but also, I mean it's everything but we always talk about the PS5 and the Xbox and everything like that. But so that's gonna be the case for they said the Switch OLED, just the Switch in general, but especially the OLED edition. So yeah, it makes sense to drop it. I'm not like I like I'm not gonna sit there and say it's not gonna happen like anytime soon because we know that Nintendo lies to us constantly. Like we've talked all the time. Like they said, we're not. No, this isn't gonna happen. And then like the very next day they talk about it. Like there's a I brought up multiple times now where the story Brian Tunnel told where they went to he's from IGN. They went to a preview event for Nintendo and they were showing off the I can't remember if it was a DS or 3DS, but it was the new model. Like it was either the
Right.
DSi or the 3DS XL. It was one of those two. I can't remember which one. And they were at a preview event looking at this thing, but it hadn't been announced to the public yet. And that same day, Nintendo came out and said there is no new edition of the DS or 3DS, or whatever, coming. And like as media people were at this event looking at the new one. So we Nintendo lies. We don't we talk all the time. They always say at directs we're only talking about games for 2021. The first fucking game they show at the direct will be games coming out in 2022.
Yep.
So it's like we can't trust them on this shit. So I mean, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I really don't because it's more expensive to produce things right now because demand is so high because like I said the chip shortage. So the prices of that stuff has gone up, and then also COVID is still really bad in a lot of places, especially in a lot of the countries that they like pay people to make these things. So like that's slowing them down. We don't have the materials. Like, everything's more expensive. So it'd be crazy where it's now more expensive to make these things than it was
Yep.
before to drop the price of them if they don't really have to. Which I guess they didn't have to in this sense, but it'd be correct. I don't know. I think it's just kind of ridiculous to do that at this point. It makes sense why they did it, but I don't know. Gables, kind of what was your thoughts, and where are you at? Are you like buying the fact that like this say the rest of this year there's no price drop for the United States? Where would you lean towards that?
Well, let's see. If there was no price drop in general for the United States in regards to the original Switch model, as comparison to like the Switch OLED, I would not be happy about it. Only because, for one, it's like, yeah, I understand that the Switch OLED stuff would be like $50 more expensive, but at the same time, if they're going to be trying to aim for like two models, which is like the Switch Lite and also like the
Three.
OLED and stuff like that. If they want to focus on those two and try to get rid of the one stuff, knocking it down by at least $50 or something would have made more sense. But I still kind of feel like that will eventually happen to where the original Switch models will be like knocked down in price and stuff, and have the OLED one be like the premium price as it is going to
Yeah.
be when it does come out.
Are
But
you are you sorry to cut you off? Are you saying that you think that they're slowly fading away the OG Switch model, or you think you're gonna keep selling all three for a long time?
well, here's what I think. I think that they're going to be moving away from the original Switch model and just sticking with two. That's to be
Gotcha.
clarifying. It's clarifying to like a rumor that we were hearing about like at least a month or so ago, where it's like there are rumors of the original Switch models being kind of phased out in favor of like say the OLED model, which in and of itself, yeah, that would make sense from that perspective, considering you got the premium product and you got the alternative in case you don't want to say play the OLED Switch on the TV or you don't want that type of screen. But that's part of the reason why I kind of feel like that I don't like the aspect of no price drops everywhere else. I mean, honestly, for Europe, and also that makes sense because of how much they're paying for the initial Switch, so the price drop does make sense there. But I'm also the fan of, hey, if you're gonna discount this system and stuff like that, everywhere else is going to be expensive to produce as well, considering like you just touched upon the
Mm.
points for COVID, also in terms of shipping costs, also in terms of anything else, especially with the labor and everything else, the import costs. Lowering down the base model system would make a lot of sense globally as opposed to just one region. So that's why I don't feel happy with just one region having one price reduction.
Yeah, but like I said though, I think the big difference there is that we're talking about a 10 euro difference
Right.
between it was 300 euros to 310, where here it's 300 and 350. Like $50 isn't anything to sneeze. Like I feel like if you're making that purchase and you have the extra cash to get a Switch, like at that point bump up to get the $50 pay the extra 50
Right.
bucks. I would say. I mean, if you're able, obviously, if like that, you're really, you just buy a thing and you probably financially shouldn't. Which I mean, I'm not blaming anybody for doing that because God knows I do. I have like multiple shelves back here of shit I can't really afford, but I buy them anyways, and multiple consoles back there that I can't afford, but I buy them anyways. Um, but yeah, I mean, I, I like I said, I don't think it's gonna happen because a like I said, like the price, like I said, it's a $10, it's a 10 euro price difference. They have the value of their dollar has dropped drastically more than any other region in the world. Um, at least in like the free world, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct statement. But the non like dictatorship worlds, I should say. I guess I don't know if that also is the right thing. I don't know. What, anyways, I feel like I keep digging a hole here. Anyways, so yeah, that makes sense to me. And it's like as hard as these things are to make, and yeah, it costs more, but they're selling them as fast as they're making them. So it's like, well, why the fuck? Like, we're gonna sell out regardless. So let's just keep it at this price. So I don't think we're gonna see one. I would think it would be awesome if they did it. Went down $50 or even dropped to, Nintendo does weird prices before. Like they've
Well,
sold like
yes.
the DS came out, like when the original 3DS came out. I think it was like, was it two 230, and then like they dropped to the 180, and then I think it was eventually like 130, and then like the 2DS came out and it was like $90. Like they do weird
Yep.
prices. Uh, so I mean, who's to say? I don't know, but I don't see one coming anytime soon. I really don't see one. I think it's most likely they phase it out before they drop the price,
Right.
which I think it's already confusing to some probably to have two different SKUs. It's easy to say, oh, Switch Lite is mobile only, but the Switch one is both. But then you're like, oh, this is the OLED edition. I mean, I think it's not as difficult as we make it out to be sometimes. Um, to like, to the non like gaming audience when they're like mom and pa are going to the store to buy their son Jimmy, who's a fucking asshole spoiler brat. I don't know why I just got randomly mad at some little child, but I did. Uh, but I don't know why. I just randomly wanted to just cuss out. Maybe it's just we were talking about Nintendo and my superpower of destroying kids with Nintendo games. Maybe that's where that came from. But anyways, you know, I don't think it's as drastically, and especially when you say everybody knows what OLED is, so it's easy to make that out. But I think it's most likely that they just phase it out. Like I think that's what they did with like the PS4 when the Pro came out, and then the smaller PS4 came out. It's like, well, they just got rid of the base PS4. I think it's the same thing. Xbox One S and X were out. They got rid of the regular one. They just
Right.
had the smaller One S, and then they had the One X. So I think that's most likely of anything that we see we just see that over the next year or so slowly fade away, especially when we're talking about like there's production issues going to go on. This chip shortage is going to go on through the end of next year, they've said already. So it would make sense to like instead of trying to get three SKUs out there, well, we can just drop this one and have more lights and more OLEDs out there. And, instead of fighting this, and then we can also make more money by making more OLEDs. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I will. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see. I think, like I said, they're gonna get rid of it before they drop the price on it. But moving on here to some Nvidia news here. So there's an Nvidia GeForce like leak here, where a bunch of games were like in the like behind the scenes, were like leaked out, and there's a bunch of games here like God of War PC edition, Gear 6 was on this list, Halo 5 PC, which is crazy to think that it's never come to PC, Final Fantasy 11 or Final Fantasy 9 remake, BioShock Ray Tracing edition, Resident Evil 4 remake, uh, GTA Auto Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remaster, Crisis 4, Half-Life 2 Remastered, and Justice 3. A bunch more. I think there was over 2,000 games on this. Oh, here's some more here. Demon Souls for PC. Um, there's several unannounced Xbox projects with code names. Fight for the Middle Earth, which I assume would be like the third game of the Middle Earth games that we had. Humans Fall Flat 2, Total War 9, Helldivers 2, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, Bioshock 2022, Final Fantasy 7 Remake for PC, which we already know that's happening. But I think that's gonna be coming to Epic Store only right away. But it's leaked out on Epic's Game Store that's coming in there. Bayonetta 3 for PC, Crisis 4, and then Kingdom Hearts 4 are on this list. I think over 2,000 games were revealed, but those are like the big ones that came out. And I think there was like about a dozen or so Xbox projects that were on that list. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, so all this happened out, and it's like they said that like a lot of this is like they like when they're oh, here it is. Nvidia is aware of the unauthorized published game list with both released and or speculative titles used only for internal tracking and testing. Company spokesperson said, Nvidia took immediate action to remove the access to the list. No confidential game builds or personal information were exposed. That's good news, obviously.
Well,
Um,
obviously so, yeah.
yeah, that's probably the most important thing of all of that, honestly. I mean, for news sake, it's not, but for I think for humans, it's the most important thing. But they basically came out and said it's like basically that these are just made for testing, and like they make, and there's been cases of this happening before, like websites accidentally leak a thing, and like
Mm-hmm.
um and more time. I think it's, I don't know if it's more times than not, but like when it happens, when it happens, when a game gets leaked on like Amazon, we'll say, and then a game gets announced, it's like, oh well, they fucking leaked it. But I mean, we hear about the shit all the time where a game gets put out, and then I think we just forget about all the times it didn't happen. It's like the Walmart Canada shit happened right before E3 2018, where like
Yes, it
Rage
did.
2, Gears 5, like all these games like were like that were eventually announced at E3. Um, were on here, but we forget about all the games that were on there that never did happen or happened years later. Like Forza Horizon 5 was on that. This happened in May 2018. That game wasn't announced until summer 2020. Splinter
That's
Cell was in
true.
that. We've never seen a Splinter Cell game. It still hasn't happened. So I think this is either the biggest leak of all time, or it's just like they said it is. And I believe that's true. That I mean, they just put games in there they think are going to happen, so that way they're ready to go when it does happen. And also sometimes who knows, like they're like, I think the Nvidia like GeForce, this is like a newer thing, so probably GeForce now, so they probably have just like games they think might happen, but I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts when you read that? Are you thinking that these games are real, or are you thinking this is just, you know, are you believing what Nvidia is saying?
Well, let's see. Considering this comes from their main server, from their initial database and stuff like that, I feel like that there are some that are tentative titles that are placeholders, but I do feel like most of those titles are true. I feel like
Yeah,
that in that regards, it's like with companies, especially like companies in general, they go forth and communicate people, like say the G4s and the type of like I'm just trying to think of what GeForce does in specific wise in terms of like gaming stuff. Like I would say in structure in terms like of specific types of hardware, or specific types of like specs or whatsoever. They
and
go
they've
for
started
the
their own
try to
game store recently too,
right.
like so.
So in order for that stuff to go, they need input from these main companies and stuff like that. That hey, this game's going to be coming out this way and this way. You know, make sure to have some like make sure to go forth in space and get some room or something like that in order to create those web pages or create that type of stuff. Of course, it could, like I said before, a lot of these could be tentative sort of releases, but I feel like that most of these leaks are real in regards to that because a lot of them do make a hell of a lot of sense. Like, for one, we do know that, yeah, there's going to be a Gears of War 6. We kind of feel like that there is and stuff. There are sequels to
They've already said they're
games.
making it,
Yeah,
so
exactly. There's like sequels to games and stuff that do make sense logically as well. Like, say, for Humans Fall Flat 2, I could see that happening, or even like in regards to say like the God of War PC port or like the Bayonetta 3 one. I don't feel like it's the PC one. That's not
yeah.
real. That's not
The
real.
la- the last three are the ones that are like no, like
No,
Bayonetta 3 for PC, Crisis 4, Kingdom Hearts 4. Like if Bayonetta 3 comes to PC, that's like groundbreaking because like people like got mad when Bayonetta 2 didn't come to other consoles, but like Nintendo funded that game 100%. It's like that's not coming. Like Nintendo isn't putting like
Nintendo doesn't
it.
put their games on PC.
No, it's like it was nuts that they like put their IPs on fucking phones. You think they're gonna put that shit on PCs? Absolutely not.
Well, no.
Um, Crisis 4, I guess it's possible because we have the remasters. I think are out or are coming out. Um,
But I'll tell you
and
what, though, the remasters in regards to Final Fantasy IX and especially Chrono Cross, both of those I can see happening is because of how Square Enix has been handling their remasters and their remakes of
yeah,
classic franchises. Final Fantasy VII with Guarding, like with Standing and stuff, Dragon Quest III, that one was remastered in regards to the ground up from that whole digital like pixel art style of Octopath Traveler. And that has been the main crux of like some of their games that have been coming out with Octopath Traveler, with Project like Triangle Strategy, that sort of gameplay, those type of graphics that opened pretty much a Pandora's box to where they can go back to their old catalog and present those games inside of that style. So even in regards to say like a Chrono Cross or some of that sort, I could see that franchise making a comeback in regards because everybody who is an old time like Square Enix fan and stuff like that they already knew how popular, how great, like say, like Chrono Trigger was, and Chrono Cross from its time back when it first released, that was one of the best games rated that year. But a lot of people now read, modern day 2020, 2021 and stuff, don't even know what the hell Chrono Cross is in that
Yeah.
regards.
Mm.
But I could see like those type of classic games coming forth and being an actuality in that regards. But at the same time, even though I kind of feel like most of those games have like a fact that probably will come out in that regards, it's like it still remains to be seen. It still remains to be announced by their own publishers and stuff. But I could be hopeful for what I want to see, which is the remakes of these classic RPGs, the games that really make the most sense in that regards. But it also is pretty damning that it comes from GeForce and stuff from their own servers, from their own website, because they have close ties to a lot of those companies.
Yeah. I mean, like this this shit happens. Like people do this shit all the time. I'm sure. Like I don't think it's like they're gonna get like fucking like anything drastic's gonna happen. Like really happen to them because like we see like this was a case where somebody broke into their shit and exposed it.
Yeah.
I mean that's bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's like we see all the time. Like I said, like Walmart leaked it themselves. Or we see like Amazon or like these random like Amazon fucking Turkey fucking randomly leaks this game or like this game was rated in fucking India. It's
Oh,
like oh okay, it's like we see it all the time.
and here's a perfect
So
example, not just for GeForce, but even with like some of the ratings boards from different countries, it's like Taiwan or this or that, with like this
Taiwan's really bad.
Castlevania Advanced Collection that's supposed to be
Yeah,
announced sometime, perhaps. Like that
hopefully
was
the
a thing
direct.
in the news this week and stuff because of how it was found another ratings board, this time in Taiwan. So it's
Yeah,
like these things get leaked all the time through various other like news sources or shopping sites or something like a Walmart, like an Amazon, like the ESRB like ratings charts of all things. Because
yeah,
yeah, but that's why I kind of feel that even puts more credence of this. More than likely is like a real set of list where these games are supposed to like have some sort of hint or some sort of things that they will eventually become a thing.
yeah. I also could see it as the fact that like yeah we know they know certain things before they happen, um, but like I could see like a thing where like but also like they put like I said, like people like these companies will push it up that they are pretty certain are going to happen or they know is going to happen. I'm pretty sure there's Walmart has a Madden 23 in their database right now or
Well,
will
yes.
soon before it's even, but we know it's happening. So I'm sure like like we know Gears for a fact Gear 6 happened. The GTA rumor was happened a long time ago. It's fair to say God of War Returnal and Demon Souls are coming to PC after they announced the Uncharted series is coming to PC. I feel
Well,
like
yeah.
anything is possible at this point for PlayStation and PC. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I think this is like blown a little bit out of proportions. A little like, where like
I could see
I
that.
mean
Yeah.
it's like out of anything like but is anything out of this like really like shocking like oh my god like this like I think Injustice 3 is very likely. Um, the ones that like kind of like definitely tell me that I believe them more is like the fact that like Bayonetta 3 for PC like I said, uh, Halo 5 for PC like that game's been out for almost 6 years. People don't really like it that much. Um,
And they
like
announced the
why
thing. Why
why
now?
would they do it now? I mean, I guess like maybe they just do it to do it, but it's like I don't know. It's like because everything, but it's like why would they do it? Now? It's like it's weird that like it's one of those things though where it's like it's weird that it hasn't happened yet, but it's also at this point like what's the point of doing it now
Yeah,
kind
and
of thing?
seeing on a list
Like
where it's something that's going to be coming out for PC, like
yeah,
for Steam or something like that,
I,
it's like it is.
and
That's just funny.
I feel like that'd be something they just put on their Windows thing. I don't know. I guess I don't know if the Halo games are on Steam or not, or if they're like exclusive to Windows.
Well,
But
one thing's for sure is like maybe some of these things will be announced come like Tokyo Game Show or
and that
even
was kind of where
yeah,
I was leaning. It's like that's kind of where I was thinking about. Like I think we'll have a better clue, maybe, but TGS.
mm,
Um, but I mean, I don't even think that means anything because like the Walmart one happened because it was like a lot of these games were going to be announced at E3. This wasn't leaked by Nvidia. This was a hacker that
yep.
leaked this. So that's but I feel like Kingdom Hearts 4 like no, no. Like it's probably going to happen eventually, but no,
And
no.
it's gonna be another
Like
10 years until it comes out.
yeah, but it's like even when the Kingdom Hearts 3 finally came out, I feel like nobody like there's nothing wrong. I should say nobody cared, but
there were people
Nobody really
that
cared.
cared, but when
There's the
people
hardcore. Everything has a hardcore fan base. I
from a
get it.
lot of some of the hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans, when 3 came out and stuff, they the expectations of that game didn't meet what they thought was going to be met in
Yeah,
that regards. That's for some of the diehard like Kingdom Hearts fans. There were some
yeah.
that enjoyed it, but there were others that were highly
But
disappointed because it took 10 years and then to get that type of result for the
yeah,
game.
and then the vast majority just didn't care or were
Yeah,
ambivalent of it, or that played it and then like, it's fine.
yeah.
So it's like it moved on. So I don't. I mean, we got the weird ass Rock Band Kingdom Hearts game last year. So, I mean, there's definitely an audience that will buy those games. I just don't. I can't see them doing a full blown Kingdom Hearts game, especially so soon.
Kingdom
But
Hearts 4,
anyways,
Mickey does drugs.
yeah. I mean, I'd buy that one. I would be the one. I'd be in the game giving him the drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. Unless you buy it from me. Uh, that's terrible. But seriously though. Anyways, moving on. So we had a couple delays this week as well.
Yes.
One of them leaked the night before.
Really?
Well, it's kind of funny. So like Jeff Grubb like teased on Twitter, which like kept me awake for a little while because he teased it like 10 o'clock at night on like I think it was like Wednesday night. He's like, it's delay season. Expect a big game getting delayed. I'm like,
And what were you
oh
thinking it
no.
was?
I was thinking everything. I'm like, what if it's Horizon, or what if it's Halo, or what if it's fucking Pokemon, or people were like Elden Ring, and then it was like I was like going through trying to figure. Like, I was like scrolling through all those comments, and then a bunch of people after like eventually that are like kind of in the business were like, it's probably just Battlefield. I'm like, oh okay, fuck, I'm going back to sleep now. But there was like a good 30-minute stretch where I'm like, oh no,
Oh,
because
that's
I'm like,
funny.
oh, But I mean, delays. I'm not gonna like ever be mad about a delay, but like you still don't want them to happen. But if they happen, they happen. Um, but it's kind of like kid. Nobody wants a kid, but if it happens, I guess it happens. Um, sorry, I had to just do a pregnant pause there. But anyways,
That's a good one.
battle Battlefield 2042. Thank you. Got delayed from October 22nd to November 19th, and Dying Light 2 got delayed from December 8th to February 4th. Um, so not huge delays. I think the Dying Light 2 one coming out, in December, also coming out the same day as Halo Infinite, being delayed, even if it's just for like sales purposes, probably a good decision. But it's also going into like a fucking stretch from like late January to like basically March of like onslaught of fucking video games. So I don't know. I'll probably do better, but
They just
I
went from the
mean,
frying pan into the fire.
I feel like, well, I think they just went like from the fire to like the frying pan that's next to the one that's on fire that hasn't been lit yet, but it's about to get lit.
Ah,
If that makes sense. I did a weird backward. I tried to do a backwards.
it's like a backward
Um,
psychology sort of thing. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, because I mean, I feel like it'd be lost more like in December than it will in February. Because
Right.
you're
I
going up
see what
against
you mean.
Halo, Pokemon, Halo, Forza, Call of Duty, Battle. Like you're going against all these big wigs, and you're coming out in December. You're gonna get lost in the shuffle. Like you're gonna be that Far Cry 3 game where like there's gonna be a lot of people that like you, but they're gonna play you. They might play you like months later. Um,
Mm,
not when it comes out. Which obviously it's more important. Sales are more important at the beginning than they are later on.
yes, they are.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like the Dying Light 2 one, like whatever, that's fine. I always thought I mentioned this at the time where like Xbox had their Gamescom thing where they kicked off the Xbox Gamecoms event by having like Dying Light 2 there, and they already had the date of December 8th. But I'm like, that's a weird thing. And then the next day at Jeff Keighley's Gamescom live thing, where they announced that Halo's coming out on like Xbox announced Halo's coming out in December 8th. I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. Like you give Dying Light this big scene and like you let them kick off your event and like, hey, remind people it's coming December 8th. And then the very next day, you announce your biggest game you've released in a decade is
It's
coming
gone.
out the same day
Yep.
after you just. It's like, wow, like maybe like, did you know you were fucking them and you felt kind of bad and you're like, I don't really. Here's some lube, I guess, to like make it hurt less. I don't know. But I think that I think obviously the big thing is that Battlefield being delayed, going from October 22nd, where they at least had a couple weeks before Call of Duty. Now they're coming out 2 weeks after. On November 6th is Call of Duty Vanguard, but then like we talked about, Halo is coming out the 2 weeks after, or 3 weeks after, 2 weeks after, 2 weeks after Battlefield. So now it's like you had the advantage of coming out early to now you're coming out in the middle. Um, So I don't know. I feel like it's already was gonna be a tough. I think. I mean, it's gonna sell millions of copies. Don't get me wrong. It's gonna do fine. I just wondered, like, I mean, Battlefield's in a weird place right now. Where, I mean, Battlefield 5 came out. It's like I talk about time. Like I completely forgot that game ever came. Like I've got a pretty good memory about things, especially like video games. I don't know why. Even like games
Okay.
I don't give a shit about. Like I'll remember them. Like I'll remember like I remember this happened. This came out here, and I remember like little weird backstories about shows. Not everything, but normally like bigger games like this I remember them. And it's like I completely like forgot there was like I thought I was like Battlefield 1 came out in 2015. We haven't had a Battlefield since. That was what I thought. And then like no, in 2017 we had Battlefield 5 and it came out and nobody cared. Or
Yeah.
it sold well and then everybody immediately left. So it's like they're doing like this big sell. They're going all in with the portal mode where you can create game modes. They have the fucking big ass twister with the giant game modes. Um, but it's like when we talked about like the big thing we were talking about was the fact that like this is going to be a full price $70 game that's multiplayer only coming out where most big online games are now free to play.
Yep.
Um, with obviously with microtransactions stuff like that. But it's like now you're going up against Halo. You're like okay, like it was already gonna be I think kind of tough for the future of that game, with even with the head start. But now it's like you're in the middle, sandwiched in, and then Halo's coming out. I know Halo's only gonna be on PC and Xbox, but Battlefield will be everywhere. But well, on PlayStation, I guess. Um, but it's like that's gonna be free to play. Call of Duty is Call of Duty. It's gonna be the biggest selling game of the year, no matter what. Like day one, it's gonna outsell every other game.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I just think if it doesn't come out and wow us, like it doesn't have, like I hope to God like that game comes out, and like all the like this is like that extra month is everything they needed. It's gonna come out day one. It's gonna work great. It's gonna blow people away because it's like we talk all the time. There's games that come out and they just don't hit right away. A couple patches later, or a few months later down the road, they come out, they fix everything, and it works great. We talk about all the time, like Destiny, Rainbow Six, uh, several like even like a Fortnite where that game came out and no one give a shit, and then obviously now it's Fortnite. We talk about all the time where this shit happens, and they say it, but I don't think this. I don't feel like Battlefield right now like I think there's some buzz around that game, but I don't think it has um, that leash this time around
Hmm.
to to get good in January. Like it's gonna
Right.
be
Right.
good at launch, or it's. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's toast because it's Battlefield. It's gonna do fine, but it's not gonna. I mean, there's just gonna be fucking tenth fiddle to Call of Duty again, and then on top of that, if Halo comes out and hits, now you gotta deal with Halo. So I don't know. They're just definitely um, rock and a hard place right now. Literally a rock and a hard place in between Call of Duty and Halo. But I mean, what's your overall thoughts on all this?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, it's like I can understand the delays for both of those
Yeah,
games.
of
I mean, for
course. Yeah.
Battlefield, yeah, I can understand. A couple of weeks after Call of Duty, since Call of Duty does have the biggest draw in regards to the sales, in regards to like they usually have like the biggest sales of like the entire year, quintessentially every time they release a Call of Duty game. So having it a couple weeks after, that's no big deal. Dying Light, yeah, I could see it now, considering it is like you just touched upon the same day as the release of Halo Infinite, and then go into that February time period. But what I was saying earlier, where it kind of feels like the from the frying pan into the fire, is like, yeah, it's not gonna, it could have very easily been buried framed by like Halo Infinite and all that other stuff and everything else that's coming out from that holiday period all the way to the beginning of December. But now it's going to be piled on from what's going to be coming out from late January all the way through like the February type of edition too. Not only just before it's released, but eventually the weeks leading after, because it's like no matter where it was placed at, from what I kind of feel about it, it's going to be buried in February too. So that's why I kind of felt like, hey, if you're going to release, going to be releasing at some form of period or somewhere, it's like you're going to have it to where maybe a brief week potentially before initially, you get outshadowed by something else. That's kind of like how I feel like where it may happen in terms of that February launch period for Dying Light 2. But yeah, I just get the feeling that this game is just going to be completely buried by everything else.
Yeah. I think like Dying Light 2 has a. I mean, at least at that in February 4th, it's gonna have its own day.
Yeah,
You know. So that's something instead of being buried by the biggest game of the
that's
probably the biggest
true.
game of the fall and the holiday season. Um, So there's that, and like Dying Light first game did really well for that. I mean, it's not pulling, Call of Duty, Halo, or anything numbers like that. Obviously,
No.
no one is, but like they're not. It's not like it's probably a multi-million seller, but I think that and that game came out good buzz. I remember Jake when that game came out in 2014, like raved about that fucking game. Like he loved that game. It was in his top 10 game that year, one of his top 10 games that year. And a lot of people like really enjoyed that game. There's a lot of buzz around that, so I think it'll do fine. Well, going back to the Battlefield, like I want to point out, like delays happen. It's fine. It's obviously, I mean, I'm not mad about delays. I'm not like, saying, oh, you're fucked now. You fucked yourself. But like, I'm just saying, I'm pointing out like it's in a tough situation. But I feel like I just want to go back to the Battlefield real fast, where I feel like if this game is coming out, like how much you can do in a month? Maybe a lot. Obviously, we're not game developers, but when I hear like multiple people in the industry talk, like I've said over the years, like you can't, you're not. I mean, maybe like there's just like enough there. But I feel like most likely it's like the game's still gonna have a lot of issues when it comes out. It's just gonna have a lot less issues. But I wonder like if the game would be better off like, okay, well instead of all right, cool, like we're gonna have a lot less issues. It's gonna run better. Maybe that game would be better off coming out in like March or something. Like I know it's not gonna get that holiday bump, but maybe it's better for you long term to maybe instead. I don't know what the sales numbers for these games are. Let's say you come out in November 19th and you sell 20 million copies, but then it's not as great as it was, or it gets buried by Call of
Right.
Duty and Halo, the new hotness, then we forget about it. Maybe it comes out in March and maybe you sell 10 million copies, and it goes on for years and it does really really well. I don't know. I don't know what's
Or
more.
maybe they could have just done like the free to play sort of approach to where
Yeah,
the initial thing is free and then charge for each and corresponding season, sort of like how Destiny 2 sometimes does with their
yeah,
content, or even with a lot of stuff. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, for this online only type of game, if they don't have like a single player like component to it, then it's like it doesn't make sense to release it like in full price on the initial get go and stuff, and then just charge for other types of maybe cosmetics or whatever the heck it is that they want to insert in for premium costs. If they want to do it like in this like a live service sort of aspect of it, then it would have made better sense to just have a free to play thing, have everyone go through, have a lot of eyes on it initially when it launched and stuff. So that way people have a chance to play it, experience it through all its like it's all its good points, all its faults and stuff, give some critical critiques or something. But the ones that stuck on, you get to maybe get to pay like maybe $10 for every like a couple months or something for each individual season in that regards. Maybe they're like 3 months long, maybe they're 5 months long, you don't know. But at the
yeah,
same point, they have the options to pick and choose what they want to go through throughout that whole experience instead of just saying, okay, here's $60 right now for that. And you're just basically getting the same shit and paying more on top of the things. So the
yeah.
initial thing, what I'm saying is cut the $60, have it free to play, and then people will chime in with their microtransaction stuff in that grand scheme of things if you want to have this more than like say a year on the market.
Yeah, but also it's like that. It's Battlefield and it's got EA push behind it and EA money behind it. So that thing's gonna generate tens of million dollars in profits day one,
Well, true.
regardless. And
Regardless of that.
it's just a matter of like how long it stays the public eye is a big difference. Which who knows if it turns out to be a hit and it's a hit and everybody paid $70 to get in, then I mean who are they gonna care? Like then like
Well,
cool
they're
we
not
got
going to care regardless if they get all that money on day one. I mean, hell, that's the thing
yeah.
about a
But I mean
company.
I think they'd rather get obviously they'd rather you get it make us all pay $70 and then keep us for multiple years. But then maybe they get more people and they get a few people for 10 million or $10 every couple months and then move on. But anyways, we got to move on to some other news here. Gables, we have one of my favorite things to talk about every fucking month. Gables, we got NPDs, buddy.
Here we go.
And it's kind of interesting. What the fuck is going on? Why I got a giant ass ad that's right over my goddamn like it is literally taking up half the fucking screen. Wow, it was
You got
blocking
an
everything.
ad, huh?
Yeah, and like there was no click away. It wasn't like a video. It was just an ad. That was weird.
A random ad in the
Anyways,
middle of everything. Hey.
yeah, it's really annoying. Anyways, this affects nobody but me. So anyways, moving on. Um, God, it's back. God damn it. Go. Okay, I can click it away. It's okay. I fixed it. Holy shit. I was about to get very angry. Moving on. So our top 20 games for the August in this order. Number 20, Super Mario Party. Back in the top 20 after a month off. It was 23, so barely out of the list.
Okay.
Mario Golf, Super Rush, dropped from 6th to 19th. But it's its third month on the NPDs, so Obviously, that's expected, but I think it's still a pretty drastic drop. Breath of the Wild went from 17th to 18th. Mario 3D World went from 14th. Now they're 17th. Mario Kart 11, Mario Kart, Mortal Kombat 11 went from 15th to 16th. Pokemon Sword and Shield went up from 18th to 15th. Animal Crossing New Horizon dropped from 12 to 14. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart went from 11 to 13. Call of Duty Modern Warfare went from 9 to 12. Smash Bros. Ultimate went from 10 to 11. MLB The Show 21 went from 7 to 10. Assassin's Creed Valhalla jumped from 20th to 9th, but I believe it did have a content update last month as well. Minecraft went from 5th to 8th. Skyward Sword went from number 1 to number 7. It came out mid July, so this is the
Yeah.
second month on the market. Mario Kart went from 4 to 6. Miles Morales jumped from 8 to 5. Wow, way to go for you. Humankind, which is a PC only game, a Sega game of all things. Brand first month on the market jumped all the way to fourth. Black Ops Cold War went from 2 to 3, jumping from 110th last month for the month of July to number 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and then number 1 for the 22nd straight year, I believe. Um, Madden takes the number 1 spot, taking the number 1 overall spot for the first month on the market. Basically since they began really tracking with NPDs, it's got the number 1 spot. It's launch month. Um, so yeah, a pretty I mean, chalk list for the most part. A lot of those things we expected. Humankind jumping, brand new game. Uh, I think it's already like the highest selling new PC game of the year. Um, coming in at number 4, which I don't think we rarely ever see PC only games on these lists. I don't think we ever have before, honestly.
Not really.
Ghost of Tsushima had the director's cut come out at the end of August. So, I mean, this is based off dollar sales. This isn't based off individual sales. So we hear about games that jump back in randomly on these lists, but it's like because they drop for like $20 or from 60 to 20 or something for a couple weeks, and that puts them back in. But I wonder, like, I want to know how many like is this people upgrading from the ten to $30 edition, and how many people are like buying this for the first time on maybe people that have a PS4 still finally just broke down and just didn't play it before, bought the director's cut, or they did say Sony PlayStation did say that over 25% of PS5 owners didn't have a PS4, so maybe a lot of people that just
Wow.
missed the Ghost of Tsushima train jumping in. But I don't know, pretty unique list. Gibbles, what's your overall thoughts on this list?
Well, let's see. The overall thoughts I have, for one, for Ghost of Tsushima, you do bring up a good point, just because it doesn't clarify in specifics if it's like, say, how many people were there actually investing upon the upgrades, the Iki Island stuff, that expansion thing, as opposed to, say, people that are buying the game or rebuying the game, for from PS4 to PS5, or how, like, say, what, 25% of people that own a PS5 or something like that, like, never even played like certain PS4 content or some of
Just
that
didn't have a
sort.
PS4.
Yeah, just didn't have a PS4 in general. But I thought that from the initial sales wars, that sales wise, this probably could have been like top 10, but I was not expecting number 2 for Ghost of Tsushima. That elevation, that surprised me. Obviously, the Nintendo game stuff, that doesn't really surprise me too much, because, the games that were out that initially lasted for the summer periods, let's say like Skyward Sword and Mario Golf, they're now progressively going off the list in regards to the sales, because of, well, obviously, the key franchises that keep on selling year after year. Talking about Madden, talking about Call of Duty, you're talking about like even like Nintendo games that normally sell incredibly well with Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. It's like those games will consistently sell on there, and then it's like the progressive other stuff just sliding on down. But yeah, you know what? Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that was an interesting jump. But like you were stating before, expansion stuff, probably new like content coming out from that game. I mean, hell,
Yeah,
it also pays to know that they're not going to be putting out a new Assassin's Creed game in quite like a long while, considering they're focusing
yeah.
on this.
At least till next year.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
till next year when they focus upon this whole interwoven sort of live service or whatever the heck thing they have planning in the wings. But overall, there's one thing for certain: it's like August, another Madden, another Madden game selling number 1 overall. So that's not really too much of a surprise, but it just tells you that the summer months winding down. And a lot of the interesting stuff is going to be happening not only for this month, but also in terms of October.
Yeah, yeah, well, especially because we get a lot of we get a lot of new releases September and October, but usually the big games come out in November. So November's gonna be very interesting, definitely, because we have Call of Duty, Pokemon, and now Battlefield in that list, and I'm sure there's
Mm,
a couple other games I'm forgetting about as well. But yeah, I mean we have 9 games here that are Nintendo Switch exclusives, which usually 8 to 10 in
that's normal.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Most it's usually around half of that list is Nintendo. I mean, you definitely see games dropping. Like I said, like Skyward Sword went from 1 to 7. Mario Kart went from 4 to 6. Like I think every Nintendo game on this list dropped, except for Mario Party jumped from 23rd to 20. But like even like Mario Golf Super Rush, I think went from second to 6th to 19th.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean like yeah, like I'm looking at every Nintendo game did drop at least um, 1 to 2 spots, except for Skyward Sword. Other than that, and I'm curious. Like obviously, I'm shocked Mario Party still selling one of the top 25 selling games because we do have a new Mario Party coming out. I think next month.
Yeah, supposedly a better
As well.
version of it coming out next
Yeah.
month.
So yeah, it's like the All Star edition of that. So yeah, who knows? But yeah, I mean, we're yeah, like I said, we're definitely into the summer months where like there's not very many new games coming out, and it's like no shock that Madden's up there. Like it's kind of like Call of Duty. I mean, it's on a smaller scale, obviously, but like that game's gonna come out. It's gonna sell right away. I think it's already the third highest selling game of the year. Um, Let me look at this. Yes, it's 22nd consecutive year that Madden has reached number one in its launch month. I just want to have a few things I wanted to point out. They kind of mentioned here. Video game sales went up 7% compared to this time last year. So even though like last year obviously the pandemic was a lot worse than what it was right now, um, sales continue to go up. A lot of that, most of that is because of console sales,
Yeah.
because people are buying PS5s and Xbox Series are coming out and they're just selling out as fast as they're going out.
Oh,
That's kind
yeah,
of interesting here. So
absolutely.
Last of Us Part Two did not make the top 20 list overall, but it did drop. It made the number 10 spot for top selling games of PlayStation. It jumped from 23rd to 20 because they had like I mentioned, the $20 price, $20. Um, they're selling on sale for $20. Um,
Right.
but here's the top. I do find it's kind of interesting. I look at every now and again. Top 10 best selling games of the year so far. Black Ops Cold War number one. It'll be The Show number two. Resident Evil Village number three. Madden NFL 22 already at the four spot. Mario 3D World is five. Miles Morales is six. Mario Kart 8 is seven. Monster Hunter Rise at number eight. Minecraft at number nine. Assassin's Creed Valhalla number 10. So I mean, it's kind of surprising actually. That's honestly more surprising. It's like I wouldn't expect The Show and Village and Monster Hunter Rise to be that high in the list, but
I kind of thought that MLB The Show, yeah, that definitely was going to be selling higher in comparison to say because it's on two consoles as opposed to just being on
and
the Sony
PC.
platform. Oh yeah, and PC as well. All those platforms helped bolster it. Plus, you know what? People do have a craving to play baseball, and
Yeah.
having a monopoly on one platform and stuff like that definitely did help Sony for a while and stuff. But it actually propelled it higher in popularity because of coming onto PC and also to Xbox as well.
That's, I'm just kind of surprised because of the Game Pass thing, like being.
Yeah, yeah, the
But
Game
I guess
Pass one was crazy.
yeah, I'm just. But I mean, I guess like Outriders. I mean, that came out Game Pass day one, and it was
Yep.
like it sold like I think like 2 million copies its first month on the market. So
Yeah, really.
yeah, so I mean, even yeah, I don't know. But moving on, we got some quick hitters here we want to talk about real fast. Um, we had so PlayStation acquired a company called Fire Sprite,
Yep.
which don't be alarmed if you have never heard of them. I think most people hadn't really ever heard of them. They are. It's funny, like they are like like I said, most of us haven't heard of them, but like they're actually a pretty large studio out of UK. Like I believe they have 250 more than 250 people on staff, um, and they're about the same size as Insomniac, which is pretty crazy. They're now like the third or fourth biggest studio under PlayStation. And what's kind of crazy is that this team was actually most of it is based. It was like the Sony Liverpool team that made Wipeout, and after they were closed in 2012, they created Fire Sprites. Now they've been acquired by. They're back in the PlayStation fold. Kind of their bigger games like the Persistent, which was a PSVR exclusive game that came out. I'm looking at screenshots and I recognize screenshots, but when I heard the name, I couldn't remember it, but I recognize that now. But I guess what's interesting is like, okay, because we know they're making the new VR, but I guess one of the things they're working on is they're working on a unique triple A first person shooter, multiplayer game, not first person shooter, multiplayer game. They are making, we know they're making two different games, but that's the big game that we know for like based off of like games they're hiring for. That's what we know they're making. So another big acquisition from them, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, kind of what's your? Oh, and then they are they're hiring for a narrative adventure. That's also an action shooter. So, are they making the next Uncharted game? Who knows? But I don't know. Gables kind of. I mean, we keep seeing this. You know that these acquisitions are happening now more than really we've ever seen. Faster we've ever seen them, and more frequently than we've ever seen before. I mean, is there anything else you really want to add to that one?
Well, for that one, I understand like the position that Sony's in right at the moment, where it's like they're heavily still thinking about VR and producing more games in that regards for, but in an eventual, I would think like a PlayStation VR 2. So, what was the main company and stuff that was helping them out in those in that response right there? Well, Fire Sprite Studios. So,
Yeah.
locking them down and stuff, making sure they don't go to the competition and stuff. While on top of that, having them go forth and create new content in regards to bolstering this eventual PSVR 2, which personally has not been announced, but I feel like is a distinct possibility because it's just another avenue and stuff to type in. I type into, tap into, considering hey, PSVR for what it was and stuff was successful for what it was. It
Yeah.
successfully went through and sold plenty of like units and stuff. Had a bunch of interesting games in that regards. I never personally touched it, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's
Mine's in the closet.
at the same time, it's like having that type of studio at your like payroll and stuff like that that knows how to develop these in-depth like say VR experiences to where you can go to them and stuff and try to create the basics or the basic crux of keyline experiences for an eventual launch of that peripheral and stuff, that PSVR 2. I mean, that's heavily important. So them
Yeah.
acquiring Fire Sprite Studios, I feel like makes absolute sense because it locks them down and it helps them in the future.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing we know about the PS4 VR 2 is like we know what the controllers looks like. That's the only thing PlayStation said about it is they've showed like some de- development shit about the controller.
Dude, watch
But
it be like some sort of like a Geordie sort of like freaking thing across your face or something like that for
yeah,
PSVR
I
2.
can't wait to see what it looks like. I mean, I wonder if it's gonna be more of the same, but
It's
I
gonna
imagine it's gonna become more like the Vive thing where with the wrap around your hands kind of shit, which sounds way better than the fucking wands.
it's gonna be you like
Um,
sticking your head up a turkey. Like,
It's just gonna be that episode of South Park, like from like season 3 or whatever, where they make fun of the what's the fucking thing with the Paul Blart Mall Cop thing he rides around on
segue.
Segway, where they make fun of the Segway when that first launch, and like Randy Marsh make and it's funny is this car like basically exists now, not exactly how Randy Marsh made it in South Park, where like it's like a one seater, but it's like it's got two wheels, but it's not a motorcycle, and like the top part, it's like a circle though, but then
Okay.
it's got two wheels, so it doesn't like rotate. But like Randy Marsh made like a fucking, and, it's got a gas pedal and brake. It looks like a normal vehicle, but it's a fucking I don't know. It's crazy. I've seen it in the wild. But anyways, it looks just like the episode that they did like in like 2002, where Randy Marsh made this fucking vehicle that was a one seater, but instead of a seat, and like being in a seat position, you actually like instead of having a seatbelt, you just shove this thing up your ass to lock yourself in, and then you control the mechanism that looks like a dildo that has a bunch of buttons on it, and you control how it moves with your mouth. So I hope, and it was just called it, and it was just called This Is It. Um, and I hope it's just that. That'd be hilarious. Um, if it's not that, I don't want it. Although I guess so, if it is that, I don't know if I want it either.
Oh,
I just kind of want to see it happen. I guess. No, I don't want to see it happen.
yeah. Let's just have somebody from
I don't
Sony
know what.
demonstrate this live
Yeah,
on stage.
yeah. I'll do it for a set fee.
Let's just go
I'm
ahead and
not
just
gonna
have
say
Jim
the.
Ryan demonstrate it.
I mean, for the proper amount of money, I'll do it. But I'm not gonna say the figure. But it's gotta be at least six.
Looks you dead in the face like this is 399 US dollars.
Yes, sold. Moving on. I don't know how I got there, but I did. Sorry. Um, if you've been listening for a long time, you did this to yourself. Also, this one kind of like I guess I should say suddenly, but um, Sony did announce that they're shutting down these servers for the all the Little Big Planet games besides three.
Yeah.
So all the ones on Vita and PS3. They did shut the servers down quietly. Kind of, they announced it, but it wasn't like a big news story.
No.
Um, they shut the servers down because of a DDoS attack, and they're worried about obviously. I mean, everybody knows about the Sony hack from in like 2011, so
Yeah,
they're worried about that. So they
that.
shut the servers down, which is kind of like when something gets DDoS attacked, that's usually what they do is they shut everything down to fix everything. But yeah, they shut, and then they announced finally that was like back in like March, and then they announced this past week that um the only now Little Big Planet game you can play online is Sackboy's Big Adventure, which is the PS5 launch game, but it's basically a 3D World clone, and then Little Big Planet 3, which was a PS4 game from 2015. Which,
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add on this. Um, I'm sure they sound like they gave it their best effort to get it back up and running, but it probably just like this is a console. These are games from on dead consoles that are 2 generations ago. Um, and they probably just kind of look at a flow chart as like, here's how much this is going to cost us, and here's how much it's really worth. So it's like, just get rid of it. Like they did say any DLC that you own for it, you can still download. Basically, the only thing is you can't create and upload new levels
Yep.
or play other people's levels. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have too much to add on. What do you guys think, Gables?
Well, I think it's really much of like a shame that DDoS attack is the thing that kind of sped up in the initial burial of the online things for the first two Little Big Planet games, especially the ones on the Vita as well, where it's like a lot of those contents, the creator contents and stuff. I mean, this came pretty much without warning, quintessentially. I mean, it was a quick announcement. Okay, we're going to be shutting down the servers and it's doing that, you know. So it's like you have now a lot of these content and stuff that was released over the years where you can't simultaneously even play any longer. So that's a
Yeah,
big bummer. But at the top, at this time and stuff, if for those that really wanted to go through like a completionist effort and stuff and complete those games, you can no longer do that either. So yeah, it definitely is like a kick in the pants, but at the same time, it's like I look at my time with Little Big Planet 1 and 2, where it's like I've had some fun playing the online components of it. I did have my own type of fun, like creating content, like doing like a bunch of. I didn't really create levels, but I more or less like just played a bunch of levels. Maybe screwed around a couple times with friends or whatsoever, but yeah, it's just one of those case and scenarios to where it's like this is the unfortunate thing for this digital future to where it's like you have games from like say 10 or 15 years ago or some that were online that are on systems that hardly anyone wants to play any longer and stuff and they just quietly just get cut off.
yeah,
So in a way, I'm sad about it, but at the same time, I understand why it's going.
yeah. And it's just like this is like what's so stupid about like DDoS attacks. Like you're not really like what's the benefit here? Like I hate that. Like for anything. I remember like this is a big deal. Like it was a Fourth of July weekend. That DDoS attack happened to Apex, and it's like a bunch of developers went on Twitter. It's like all you did was like ruin all the developers' weekend because now we had to work during Fourth of July weekend to fix this. Um, to
Yeah.
stop this from getting worse. So it's like that's like all you did. Like you didn't get any money out of this. You didn't get anything out. Like you just ruined a bunch of people's holiday weekend. Like we've seen like DDoS happen twice now on Extra Life during game day, where
Yeah, we
happened
have
in 2019, then happened I think in 2015,
20.
2014
Yeah,
happened.
see, 2014 and then 2019 and stuff like that, to where,
Yeah, so
hey, you know what? People want to spend their one day in regards to the years just raising money for sick kids and stuff like that, and that's how you choose to go forth and try to
yeah,
extend
you're
your own type of ideals and agendas and stuff is through like trying to make other people's lives miserable on that day. I mean, come on.
yeah. That's one. I mean, not to get on an Extra Life tangent here, but that's what I just don't understand because like I can see like where like you can like brag to like people in like the hacker people and shit like that. Like you hear about that, like they use it to like kind of help their cred and stuff like that. It's like that. I feel like yeah, I cost this children's charity hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars by doing by DDoS attacking them on their biggest day of the year. It's like I wouldn't. Who would you brag to about that? It's like who could defend that? It's like oh yeah okay you so a bunch of sick kids aren't gonna get help now. Well, you're scum of the earth. You go hang out. You can go hang out with Bill Cosby. Um, but anyways, that's kind of it for the quick hitters. I was gonna like talk about the fact that God of War is only gonna have 2 games. Why they talked about Corey Barlog in an interview said why they're only doing 2 games in Norse mythology. But I don't want to spend a 20-minute rant on that, so I'm gonna just not do that. Maybe we'll do it next week or something.
Yeah,
I
we'll
don't know.
save it for another time.
Yeah, we'll see if I got it every next week. It's not really a rant. It's just a 20-minute like tangent I can go on about this because God knows I didn't do enough last week. But let's move on to what we've been playing.
Okay.
Gables, if you do not mind, I would like to go first.
All right, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So the first, I guess is the only game I played this week is Life is Strange True Colors. If you missed last week, I basically started the show by going on like a 20-minute long thing about how much I love this game. I'm not going to do it this week, but my fucking God, I love this game, Gables. Gables,
I knew this was going to be one of your games of the year.
I think it might be my game of the year.
Oh, that's strong. Awesome.
Yeah, like okay, so not only did I beat this game, I platinumed it.
Oh, wow. Hey,
Which
that's a rarity for you.
yeah, like if you look at my platinums, I like they're all Telltale games, Jazz Punk, and there's My
My
Name
name
is
is
Mayo.
Mayo.
Which I even Gables remembers that of all things. Like and Rocket League, which Rocket League I just got from playing the game
Yep.
with you guys for like hundreds of
You and
hours.
I both platinumed that game because we played a lot of it together.
Yeah, it wasn't even trying. It was just like I just got it through playing the game. But yeah, I adore this game. And the platinum's not super hard to get. You can basically just gotta find all the collectibles, which if you just walk around the world, you just kind of bump into them all. And it's literally just like a block. So it's not like it's not hard to do. Anyways, um, I love this game. I loved it even more. It was funny. I played the first 2 chapters back to back last Saturday. It came out just last Friday, and I wanted to keep playing it, but then I wanted to watch Hawkeye's game started, so it was a Cyhawk game. Had to watch that, and then we had to record, so I never got back to it. And then Sunday I woke up late, and then watched football all day, and then I don't have time during the week to play games. So then like Friday came, and I was telling Gills before the show, I was like, okay, I need to. I've been wanting to play this all fucking week. I want to get back to it. I'm loving this game. So last night, Friday night, like 8 o'clock, I was like, I'm gonna play through. I'll play through one more episode because you can. Great thing is they put all the episodes out right away instead of making us wait weeks or months for the next one. Um, and I beat the first episode, and I'm like, oh, that was incredible. Like, I'll play the next one. And then I beat episode 4, and I'm like, well, I can't go to bed right now. I gotta fucking find out like what happens here in the conclusion. There's 5 episodes, and then I beat it, and I looked, and it was like 12:45 in the morning. I'm like, holy shit! Which for people who don't know, I don't do that ever, almost ever, on my own. Like if we have a gamer night, I might stay up late and play games. But
Yeah.
if I'm just me by myself playing games, I'm an old man. I'm 32 now. I got some. Where's it? Where's it?
Oh, come on. You don't really see the gray hair through your beard.
It's in there. It's right there. You can't see it.
Well, a little tinge.
Yeah, right there, right there. Sorry for audio listeners, but I zoomed in really hard on my beard, my gray hair. But I got gray hair. I'm getting old. I go to bed early. So, anyways, yeah, that I fucking blew through it, and it was like there's like like when you finish like a really good series, like a TV series or a video game, and you're just like there's no point in living anymore kind of feeling where it's like, well, you just like that, like I love that, but it's like also like
man, I'm sad it's over.
yeah, like that's like I sat up for like another hour, just like bummed. I'm like I fucking love that, which never. I mean, I don't have that feeling often, but when I do, it's like it's big. It's bigger. Like it's series I love. Like my plan was to like beat that and then watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but it was also the series finale, and that's like one of my all-time favorite shows. I'm like,
Oh
I can't do this
no!
back to back,
You get to it
so
back to back.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I gotta wait. I'm gonna watch it tomorrow, because I'm gonna need some time on that one because that one's gonna hurt. Um, but yeah, I loved it. I loved the story of Alex Chen. Kind of a quick recap, real fast, if you didn't listen last week. She grew up in an orphanage. Her and her brother got separated 8 years ago, and he actually found her. And it starts with he's living in this town called Haven Spring in Colorado. You're basically in the Rockies. Like you're in this mountain town that's basically like it's a mining town. So everybody basically works for Typhon, which is the mining company of this town. Um, and she finally gets out of the orphanage. She's 21, and she goes there and to live with her brother Gabe. No relations to Gables. Um, and the very first day, and this is not really much of a spoiler if you watch any of the trailers. This is like the first thing to talk about. Is in the first episode, the first day there, he dies in an accident, which might not be an accident. So it's kind of a murder mystery kind of thing where it's like, what's the story going on with this one? But like honestly, like, and that's kind of like the weird thing about these games. Like, there's a bigger story that goes on with these games. But honestly, I love everything I love about the games is the stuff that's not the main. Like, I sometimes I just like don't like the main story. Like, it's even though it's really good and interesting, I want to know what happens. It's like it gets in the way of like how much I love these characters. And I love this town. Like you got Jed who owns who's a retired miner who now owns the local bar, the Black Lantern. You got Riley who's like wants to go to college, but she helps her grandma run the flower shop, and she's getting older. Eleanor is her name. Charlotte, who is Gabe's boyfriend, not Gable or Gabe's girlfriend rather, and she's got a son named Ethan, who's huge into comics. And there's really like episode 3 is like one of the most charming things. Like Gables, it turns into a side-scrolling JRPG.
Eh.
An episode, yeah. So like minor spoilers, I guess, real fast. I'm not gonna like spoil story stuff, but like so Ethan like basically Gabe was like a dad to him, but it's like that was Gabe's stepson. And then he dies because and so like Ethan who's like 10, 11, 12 years old, super depressed about Gabe dying, and so the whole town gets together and decides to do a whole LARP festival for him because
Oh.
they were gonna go to a LARP thing in Denver the very next week until he died. So to like make him happy. So then like you as Alex, you are a bard who plays a guitar,
Okay.
and so you go on this LARPing adventure. You basically do like a story of LARPing. If people don't know what LARPing is, it's a live action role play. Like if
Yep.
you ever go to the park and see people like fighting with fake weapons in the park, that's LARPing. So then, like, but it literally turns into like so like the people in the town dress up as like evil like dire wolves and shit, and like it turns into a for like a half of an episode turns into like a turn-based battling game, and it even does like corny like 2D like almost like 2D sprite music, which is just incredible. And I'm like I was like ear to ear smiling the whole like I love this. This is so charming. You got like other characters like Steph, who like is the local radio DJ and who runs a record store. Ryan, who is the son of Jed, who's like the park ranger, and Jason Pike, who is the sheriff of the town. It's like there's so many like memorable characters. And it's like I loved all of them. I every time like I got a chance to walk around the town, and just like and there's like what's so cool is like there's so much shit you can miss that could make drastic changes to like the story. Like things like with like you could you find this person just off in this like you walk to the store, you walk around, take this back alley over here, and you like have this whole conversation with them. And then kind of the thing with Alex is, and once again, like just like last week, front to the whole preference of like her story is the fact she has superpowers where she can like see an aura around. If someone feels emotion strong enough, she sees an aura around them. And that color is kind of their feeling is like there is the what their emotion is. And if it's strong enough, it makes Alex feel that too. So if someone's super angry, she feels that anger, and now she's really angry. And then also, if she feels that strong enough, she can kind of read their mind, kind of, sort of, and get a gist of what they're angry about, or what they're scared about, or like um, happy about, or whatever. And it's just like you use that to like your advantage to like, and sometimes like unlock new dialogue that can like open up a whole new section with other characters later on, or open up a whole new dialogue with that before going to that conversation that could totally change the way things progress with these characters. Which, like I said, everything ties into the end. But I came away like I loved the game. Um, super just incredible story. Like once again, this is Deck Nine. This is even like they made Before the Storm, which was the prequel side story they made for Life is Strange 1 2. They didn't even make. They're not even the creators of this, and I feel this is the best work. I think they made two of the four. Uh, if I had to rank them, I'd put theirs 1 and 2. Like this is one. Before the Storm is 2. Life is Strange 1 is 3. Life is Strange 2 is fourth by country mile, I think. But totally blown away. I thought I would like this game. I was a little like, but I was going in like this is gonna be a 7 out of 10 kind of game, like I was hoping for, because I just did not like 2. And I, Deck Nine, as much love Before the Storm. They never actually had to create their own characters in the whole world. Like they just, even though they made a really great story, the story had already been. It was a prequel of a universe that had already been made, so we already knew the beats of the story. It was just, but anyways, they knocked out the park. I love this game. Rambling. The music, once again, they they are the best at with these Life is Strange franchises. They are the best at music. They find some of these great indie artists and they put them in the game. And they did some really great jobs with like putting in like even like some mainstream people in here. Like they had fucking Kings of Leon,
Right.
Mechanical Bull, which is one of my favorite bands. Um, they had some music from them in, a few other more, like they had Creep by Radiohead. They had that in there, but yeah, this man, like multiple times, me ear to ear smiling, depressed because of shit that happened, like tears, not like straight up, uh, snot bubble crying, but tears. Like it hit me on a lot of levels. Some happy tears, some sad tears, but yeah, this they fucking knocked us out of the park. Fantastic game. If you are at all like if you like those Telltale kind of games or Life is Strange in the past, like this is their best work ever. And you do not need to play the other ones to play this one. The only tie-ins to the previous game is that Steph is in Before the Storm, but she's like a side character in that game. And then I mean you could just jump right into this one and it's its own side, its own story. But it's in the universe, but it's its own story. But yeah, 10 out of 10. Um, I mean, I'm in the moment kind of thing, so it's not like I'm not writing this in pen, but it's right now. It's probably my game of the year.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, that's all I'm playing. Gables. I see your list here. Uh, three of my all-time favorite games. Well, my all-time favorite game, one of my all-time favorite games, and one of my other current game of the year frontrunners. All right, so just break my heart, Gables. Tell me how you feeling about these games.
All right. So before I get into those, I'll just say that I did go through a big old rabbit hole in regards to the games that I've been playing this week. And what started it off was playing one of the games that I had bought on the PS4, and that was A Whole New World. So
Oh,
when I was playing through A Whole New World, I went forth and I noticed the crux and the gimmick of this game in its entirety and stuff within the first. Well, now within like the first couple of levels, where it's just basically sort of a basic sort of a left platformer left to right with like the occasional going like through the pitfalls and stuff like that, and then you could transport like upside down and stuff, and that whole gimmick of like traveling through the upside right side up world and the upside down world. That's what I quintessentially that I'm
Stranger
that
Things, got it.
yeah, it's sort of like that. It's sort of like that to where it's like everything else is sort of like inverted in terms of the controls and like the monsters and the pitfalls and everything. What started grating on me wasn't really more or less like the music, but it was pretty much like the initial level design stuff and also the initial like boss battles in and of itself, which I kind of felt like were they weren't difficult per se. They were just kind of annoying in that retrospect. It didn't really get annoying until I had to go through this long ass section in regards to like a level 4, I think it was, to where I had to face off against this bone dragon sort of boss. Now this stage was very long and drawn out, right? Because you go initially inside the stage and you have to travel through each of these bone dragon heads, right? So it's like they're each one of these are like separated into 4 sections. So you have the top section
Gables,
and the bottom. Yeah, I know.
I, I have a question.
What?
Is Bone Dragon the tag team partner of Bonesaw from Spider-Man?
Oh gosh, man. Honestly, the way that this monster looked and reacted and stuff, I wouldn't have surprised me in the least. But
Good.
what quintessentially they are, they're skeleton dragons, right? And so their heads are all placed into specific quadrants. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And so you have to explore each quadrant and stuff like that, go through the random bullshit of like navigating throughout the terrain in order to take out an initial section. It was like a heart or something of this dragon or something, and it's supposed to reflect and change the stage in somewhat. So, what seemed like about 20 minutes, I went through the entirety of this stuff until I got to this initial boss, which you know what, spoilers, it's like these four dragon heads are now attacking you simultaneously, right, in the center of this damn stage. And so I had to switch between the power-ups that I have, and one of the potions was this. It actually is like one of those kind of weapons to where it's sort of like acts like a pillar to where like it shoots like a ball of energy or something like that goes like a ball of ice or whatever the hell it is that shoots upwards and stuff like that. And so I ended up going through initially defeating these dragon heads eventually after about 5 or 6 times of going through and trying, and then all of a sudden it doesn't end the stage
Was
there.
it less than 3 minutes?
No, no, it was not less than 3 minutes. Let me tell you that.
Well, then
It
you
took me a
didn't
good.
win because the Bone Dragons got you for 3 minutes.
Well, let me just say this. It took me about 10 to 20 minutes just to traverse this stage and go through all the different quadrants. It took me an additional like 10 minutes or so to go through this boss stage because it's like I had to try to dodge all these projectiles and all this other random shit that's just like cluttering the screen. And then it's pretty much inflated difficulty by tossing all these projectiles at you and telling you, okay, dodge this, dodge that. And then on top of that, the stage doesn't end up you beat the boss. No, it more or less it follows the same pattern as each individual stage to where it's like you beat the boss, now you got to go through to the next stage, where it's like you beat the boss, you go to the next room. Okay, now it transports you to the different stage. There's no transition; it just automatically, instantly gets you to the next stage. But the problem was I couldn't find the exit to go through the end of the stage, and so I had to retrack forth. And bear in mind, I've already spent like an hour playing through this damn level. I'm thinking to myself, this level is like longer than the initial time it took me to get to this spot initially. So I'm like, I look at the game, I was just fiddling around the music, and I'm like, God damn it, I do not have any desire to play this now. And so I deleted off my PS4, finished off. I decided to finish up Savage Halloween. That game was much more interesting, was much more creative in terms of its level design. There were actually different themes, different bosses that were fairly interesting. Granted, yes, there are some difficulty curves right there, depending upon what character you use, and also if you want to play on normal and hardcore difficulty. But that game was pretty fun to where each individual bosses and mini bosses you faced off against were radically different, obviously horror and themed. But what's kind of funny is like I finished it like yesterday morning, and I wasn't expecting to because it's like the what was it, the sixth level and stuff. I went through this sort of like forest level and stuff, and basically the entire boss battle, you're on a canoe, right? You're like on this like straight canoe, like on top of like a riverbed. And here you are, you're facing off, and these four poles drop out of the sky, and it transforms into a boxing ring, and you have to fight the fucking werewolf that's boxing you. And I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this is kind of random, but okay, I'll go with it. And so it does its exaggerated movements like certain other like pixelated bosses go. Like it'll jump up in the air and then it'll go to a corner or that corner or whatsoever. And so after all of that and stuff, I beat the boss. And then when I go to the final stage is sort of like a mixture between kind of like a spy hunter sort of like theme level to where it's you are in a car, you're trying to destroy and dodge all these other cars and stuff like from a left to right perspective, right? So it's quintessentially almost like a shmup in terms of like a shoot 'em up to where you have to destroy these other cars, these other vehicles, you have to destroy the set line of vehicles and stuff that'll toss out these barrels and stuff, exploding barrels and all that other shit. But finally, when I get to the final boss is pretty funny. The final boss is DJ Dracula. DJ Dracula. So it's like you are fighting against like this Dracula battle, which is very reminiscent to like the first form of Dracula from Castlevania, right? And he'll have his projectiles and stuff, but instead of like doing like maybe one fireball or three fireballs, no, he has three separate attacks, right? So where he goes from one side of the stage, he throws 3 bats, and these 3 bats will go forth and try to seek target into you. Then it's like he'll have like the specific attack to where it opens a portal and there's some sort of freaking dragon that just pops out of the damn thing that goes from either anywhere or whatever. And then there's like the last attack to where he's in the center stage and all these bats are flying out of his cape and doing all this and all that. It took me about a good solid 4 or 5 tries until I realized the pattern of it, that I had to stay inside of underneath the platform in one corner in order to try to do some bit of damage. But yeah, when I finally finished the game, finally beat it, did everything else and stuff, I was kind of left like just saying, hey, this was actually a pretty fun experience. I only paid like about $2 for this game, you know. It's like the other game was not that great in my honest opinion, but this one was pretty solid. As a matter of fact, I think as a recording, this game is available on Switch. I thought it was on sale for like $2. So for anybody listening in, either on Twitch or through like YouTube or wherever you're listening to us at, definitely check out this game. If you are a fan of retro content, you know, Savage Halloween, that is definitely something worth your time, considering it's the Halloween season coming up. Might as well pick it up, you know. It's not going to be a tremendous loss or something, and it's going to be some form of good platform goodness. But the commonalities of what I liked about it, the pixelated graphics were fun. The music soundtrack was fantastic because it really put into theme each individual levels you had to go through. The selectable characters, you know what, there really wasn't too much differences between them other than the fact that, okay, they have a specific amount of speed that's different, or strength that's different, or jump that's different, or, you know, their special attacks are different. Like one like tosses a grenade, one does these like wolf like claws and stuff, while another one just kind of like yeah, you know, kind of like incinerates them and sucks like the HP out of enemies or whatsoever. So out of those 3 characters, like one of them was like James, like a pumpkin sort of character. One of them is like Lulu, his like James's pet dog that transforms into a werewolf. And it's like the other one was like a girl or something that's like the father of the main villain and stuff, who's called like Dominica or something like that, where it's like she's the father of she's like the daughter of like DJ Dracula, the final boss of the game. So it's like these characters are unique. The level designs were unique. There were some times where it kind of felt like the stages were kind of a little bit over elongated in terms of like their padding and stuff. But honestly, they were fun. And the different weapon types you had to select through, whether it was like through the basic like blaster, or if it's like shooting all these like 3 like projectile bats or some all these ghosts that are going back and forth, or the chicken bomb that you just you just shoot and stuff, and the freaking chicken just lodges into an enemy, just explodes. Or the freaking frog attack, to where it's like you're shooting frogs that they ribbit as they go through. They just hit like enemies like a one, just to kind of thud and stuff. But yeah, Savage Halloween was pretty fun. Now I go from that rabbit hole into like a couple other rabbit holes, to where I initially started God of War. I let's see. Up until then, you know, I did have my fair share of like listening about the acclaim of the game. I decided I wanted to try it out. I played through that first section. I spent a couple hours in God of War. I feel like the
Yes.
opening of it is fantastic. And
Uh-huh.
and for the listeners, Tyler's on the edge of his seat just listening intently.
Keep going.
I gotta admit, though, you know, the opening cinematics, the thing, how it transitions in between them, I thought that was beautifully done, beautifully told in regards to like, you know, the death of like the whole center of like the death around like the lady, you know,
Faye.
for like Atreus is like damn it, what about
Faye. Her name's Faye.
Faye? I'm sorry. Oh well, I'm still getting used to the game, still getting used to like the other characters and stuff.
Learn your goddamn Norse mythology, Gables. I need you to watch 300 hours of it, like I have.
Like I was saying, the opening cinematic and the opening particular section, the tutorial section I went through and stuff, but that first initial boss battle where you're facing off against somebody, the stranger, that was a fantastic experience. Why? Because that was a boss battle to where you felt like, holy shit, you know, Kratos is actually getting challenged to a certain extent, to where you could see him beaten almost in an inch of his life, and he still manages to subsequently, maybe he killed him, maybe he didn't, you know, it just leaves that possibility floating around and stuff, to where he had to pretty much toss the entire fucking like crag and like thing on top of this dude in order to stop him. So at this point at this current time and stuff, I am currently through that section of the game, which kind of quintessentially is like the prologue of it, and I'm still making my way through this game because now I'm going through the whole puzzles things like with the axe and with the gears and all that other stuff. I'm progressively going through this game. Now I just need to
Hmm.
settle upon what game I need to go through next because I played a bit of that. I played a couple hours of Haven. Now that's the thing. I played a couple hours of Haven and I thought that the story, the initial parts of the story that I've played so far is a good narrative experience. I like the chemistry between both both of these. Oh, God damn it. Uh, oh God. Well, I'm explaining things. Tyler's making faces at me, and it's kind of just throwing me
I'm not
off.
making faces. I'm smiling
Yeah,
harder.
I know. That's why it's throwing me off. But yes, I like the story so far in Haven, to where it's like you have this couple and stuff that escaped from this like almost like an authoritarian sort of like planet in that regards in order to find like some like individual piece of life stuff for them, to live out the way they want to live out, and on their terms. And so it's like the chemistry between these two going through each individual discoveries and stuff, learning about these things of it's quintessentially very early on for me to where they have these portals they're going through to trying to get everything else. They're trying to like learn how to cook certain things, like the whole oh god apple dews and all this other shit and all these.
Oh my god, the apple dews. They get tired of apple dews real fast, Gables. I'm not gonna lie to
Yeah,
you.
that's
So.
that's pretty true though. They do get. I know that the girl gets initially tired of the apple juice like pretty quickly and stuff like that. Where the guy's like, you know what? Let's just go. Let's add like a couple little things of spices, little things of this here and there and stuff. But
Mm.
yes, like I said, I spent like a couple hours playing Haven and stuff. Like I did. So basically, my entire goal for the last week was to simultaneously tackle the games that Tyler has wanted me to try to at least start so that way I would not forget or would forget about them in the grand scheme of things. And because my funds have been entirely strapped for this month, I decided to do just that. But the third game and the most interesting game that I have played this past week was Hyper Light Drifter. Hyper Light Drifter. That's the game that has a whole hell of a lot of acclaim, has a whole hell of a lot of things, and I have bought personally 3 times. But this is the first time where I've sat down. Well, it's
Five.
5 for Tyler. There you go. But this is the first time I've initially gone through, sat down, and played through the experience. And let me tell you something. It's like the minimalistic approach to where it leaves you with the interpretation of how the story goes through with certain things, how you get to complete certain side quests, how you get to explore and defeat opponents. And man, the combat of itself, it takes a little bit getting used to, but it's not overly complicated. It's sort of similar to another game that I had played earlier on the Switch's life cycle, which was like Chemico, which, yeah,
Yeah.
Chemico was inspired by Hyper Light Drifter initially. So it's
Yes.
like this game definitely has harder terms in terms of like facing off against enemies in terms of combat. I mean, I initially found that out the hard way to where you have 5 hit points, you have enemies that'll take out maybe one or two things if you're not paying close attention. You got to be on edge when you face off against enemies inside of this game because they will kill you without a moment's notice. You have to be
Hmm.
quick on your feet. But let me tell you, man, it's like exploring the different like terrains and stuff. I initially learned through checking out a couple things that I need to get these sort of these purple squares or something like that in order to like advance further onto that. So on the eastern quadrant, I got like 2 out of the 4. And so initially,
Nice.
I'm assuming that once I collect 4, it'll open up a pathway to be to defeat a boss or some of that section. That's what I'm assuming through what I've seen of the map so far. But what I've seen so far is I love the graphical design, the ambience of when you transfer down into these labyrinths and stuff like that. It's interesting because it's like it totally changes the mood where it's like it's totally serene when you're going through and exploring, and then all of a sudden, the next minute, it's foreboding. You go down deeper and stuff. You face off against these waves of enemies where you have to dodge them, and on top of that, collect certain health power ups. And there was one section throughout this east and throughout like this area to where it's kind of pissing me off to where you have these platforms, right? You have this specific type of gem that you're supposed to collect in order to get like another portion of a thing unlocked, right? And so it's at the end of like these platforms, right? And so you travel to these platforms, but they ignite with fire. So as soon as you step on, they ignite with fire, and so you have to go through all these simultaneously, like in a row, in a specific pattern, in order to get to this chest. I've only made it to like maybe 4 or 5 patterns with like until I died, pretty much. But I'm thinking that there probably is something that's going to allow me to go quicker, or maybe slow down the flow of time in regards to trying to finish that stuff. That's what I'm guessing and what I'm assuming through tackling it. But my initial thoughts of the game was actually pretty cool with that. But let's see. Let's see. In the grand scheme of what I played for this week, that is a lot. There was one other game I did play it a little bit, and that was Cuphead. I played a little bit of that too, but it wasn't as in depth as some of the other 3 games because Tyler's like, oh, well, of course. You have these 3 games.
I'm not gonna complain. I've been saying for 5 goddamn years to play Hyper Light Drafter. I've been saying for 3.5 goddamn years to play God of War, and I've been saying for like 8 months to play
Yep.
Haven. And god damn it, Gables played Haven.
And I played all 3 of them in a span of a week, but not beat them. But I will
You
beat them.
just gotta, man. I don't know. Like you're like trying to decide which one to jump into. I don't know. Because God of War is gonna be like a 20, 30 hour experience. Hyper Light Drifter is probably around 5 to 8.
Right.
Haven's probably 6ish. So.
In the grand scheme of things, I constructed things based upon what I wanted to play. So I did something that I don't ever do, and that's construct a list.
Listen to Tyler.
Well, that was one thing that I did.
It's probably good not to listen to me.
But the other thing is, I constructed a list of what games that I wanted to play through. And quintessentially, the rules of this list is as follows, is what? I'll have maybe 5 to 10 games that'll be on this list, give or take what I have. And then I will not go through any other games until I finish this list. So it's like, gotcha. I had 9 games in this list starting until I beat Savage Halloween. And so now I have 8. And the 8 games are as follows. It's like we have God of War, we have Haven, we have Hyper Light Drifter, we have Cuphead now, we have Cyber Shadow, which is another game that I have. And on top of that, there are at least a couple other games that I'm not mentioning. But at that same point, the grand scheme of things is Gables is going to finish some games. He's going to finish them real quick, and he's going to have a lot more epic stories to tell in the coming weeks.
I hope so. I just want to nerd out with Norse mythology and God of War theories with somebody. And at this point, that's gonna be you if you beat that goddamn game. And then after you beat Hyper Light Drifter, Gables, and God of War, and Haven, you think, oh cool, I beat all these games. Tyler will shut the fuck up. Then I'm gonna be like, hey Gables, you should probably really play Death's Door. It's probably the best game.
Oh yeah, trust me, I've had that on the forefront of my mind. Don't think that I haven't, because that's definitely a type of game that I would go through and play. But yeah, Death's Door is definitely that type of game where I want to play eventually. Yes. So, honestly, that's pretty much what I've been playing this week. A whole
very good
rabbit hole.
Yes, I'm very happy with this. I was half expecting him to come in and like you were just gonna like hate everything I love. And that was gonna be the episode, and it was just gonna be with me like on the floor crying. So I'm glad that's not the case. I hope you keep playing these games. Hope you like them. But yeah, Gables, I think that might do it for us this week. If you like the show, please share, subscribe, thumbs up, 5 stars, leave comments, whatever, reviews, whatever you can do to help us out. We are on YouTube, Drunk Dash Nerds, Twitter, Facebook, Drunk Dash Nerds Podcast, Drunk Nerds Pod. Just search for us pretty much any of those places. Anywhere pods are cast, we are on them. At least all the big ones that I could find, we are on them. So please go on there and subscribe to us, download us, 5-star us, like us, share us. All those things really help us out with the algorithm, and give us a chance to be seen, because it's a wild world out there, Gables. And we just want to be seen. So yeah, Thank you guys so much. I was host. I was
And
Tyler.
I have been Colonel Gables. So until next time, everyone, have yourself a fun time this week. Don't work too hard, and quite honestly, play some fun video games for God's sakes. But most importantly of all, thank you for listening to another fun-filled episode of the Drunk Nerds podcast.
And hey,
Yeah.
Gables. Too sweet, baby.
Too sweet.
Bye, guys.
See ya. Alrighty. Ooh.